Mother was, she taught people in school that were older than she was. She took a test at Texas Normal College when she was a teenager, passed that test and got a teaching certificate. She met my dad at church at Antioch. That's where they met. They first met, there was about, I think there may be a picture of it here. There was a picture of a lot of people that were baptized in the old oil mill pool at Antioch. And they met at that time. Mother came to teach at Giles Academy, that they called it at that time. My wife attended there just a year or two before it was done away with. But she was teaching there when Mother and Dad died. Dad would ride a horse from the other side of Ratton, if you know where Ratton is, out of Antioch where the Cummings farm was. He'd ride a horse over to see Mother. And courtship then wasn't like it is today. Or if you saw one another, you had a chaperone. Uncle Odie was a chaperone when Mother and Dad dated. And that's the way it was back then. I don't think we've improved on that. But anyway, that's some of the memories that I have. I have many more memories about my mother and my dad. You want to know my mother's heart? There's a book over there that Beth brought of poetry that she wrote.
Your mother was quite a writer, wasn't she?
Oh, yes.
She wrote poems?
She wrote a poem about every one of her children and every instance she could think of in our lives.
She wrote letters often too, right?
Yes.
Probably all the cousins got letters from her.
Mm-hmm.
And she was actually a newspaper correspondent for a while, right?
Yes.
She wrote the Pecan Gap News for
years.
Range County, the Cooper Review.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to tell us about Casey and Jewel?
I can't think of a thing other than Dad was devoted to farming, but the love of his life was Pecan Gap. He loved this town. He spent hours and hours resurrecting the cemetery, and you can see the evidence of it if you go by there today. It's a perpetual care cemetery now, and I track that back to the efforts that my wife's uncle and my dad made to see it happen. You see any pecan trees all over this country, probably my dad put them out. He was a man that planted pecan trees wherever he went. Down at the Lane place this side of Cooper. The only thing that remains of our family there are pecan trees all over that land that Dad planted. He could go into anybody's place and graft pecans on natural pecan trees and make them into big paper shell pecans. The love of his life was to grow things. And I've often told him, I said, you could throw a stick on the ground and it would grow. He had that kind of gift.
He was actually mayor of Pecan Gap for a good while, wasn't he?
Many years.
You know how many years?
No, I don't know exactly. Beth may know. But Dad never ran. He never ran. He was a write-in. People wrote it in. But some of the accomplishments that he achieved while he was mayor was a public water system that was acceptable and a sewer system that was acceptable and a storage of water in the new lake that was acceptable. He worked tirelessly for his community. He was always active in the church. As I said, he sang in the choir. Dad wouldn't pray in public. Never heard him pray in public, but he prayed with his boys. He prayed with his family. But he said, my Bible tells me that when you pray, enter into your closet and pray in secret.
Actually, when he started the water company here, it was during another drought period, and he was on TV in Dallas on his efforts to start that water company. Is that right?
That's right.
I found out today that they sold the water company and they used some of the money to build this building we're in now.
That's right. That's right.
But he's the guy that had the vision.
He'd be thrilled to death with this facility right here.
Any other stories you want to tell us about Casey or Jewel?
No.
Did he like to fish?
Oh, he loved to fish. My daddy used to buy me the best reels and rods that money could buy, and then he'd wear them out. I never fished. I never cared for it.
He also liked to tease kids, didn't he?
He liked to tease anybody. One instance I remember that broke his heart. When Uncle Odie came back from World War II, he came to our house. And Dad had one of those things that you wire onto the ignition of a car. And when you cranked it up, it would go off and whistle and blow up smoke everywhere. He put it on Uncle Odie's car. He and Uncle Odie were buddies. They picked at one another all their life. But he didn't realize what effect it would have. And when that thing went off in Uncle Odie's car, he had just gotten back from being under fire for many days in Sicily. And he jumped out of that car and actually crawled up under it. It scared him so bad. My dad cried for hours, the only time I can remember.
He used to have a plastic alligator he'd chase my kids around the house with.
What would they do if they come to your house and you wasn't home? You remember that?
Well, they'd go in and put a chair on the bed and decorate it real good and do different things. You know they were there.
Back in those days, people didn't lock their doors, did they?
No.
Anything else before Doorbeth gets a chance to rebut the stories you've told?
That's good.
The closest I ever come starving to death, I went fishing